To the membership meeting that day, there will be a soup and bread luncheon between the service and the meeting. There's a sign-up sheet in the lobby for those who would like to bring something to share. And finally, we'll be collecting non-perishable food items that will be donated to Father Fred's food pantry. And that wraps up the announcements, but Kelly has one.
Perfect segue. You mentioned Father Fred's food pantry. Thank you so much to everybody who signed up and showed up at the Father Fred Frostlight food drive last weekend. In total, it was 572 banana boxes of food. And you pick those things up, and I pick them up all the time. They weigh between 35 to 40 pounds. That is an absolute truckload of food. And some of you have witnessed the overwhelming generosity that exists in our community. Every time I was out there, somebody came up with a basket full of groceries, and I'm like, where's yours? And they pick up their little bag and say, here's mine, I got 20. And they just donate. It's truly amazing. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Kelly.
You can remain seated. You are love, my precious child, with love as boundless as the sea. My love for you is like a rose, unfolding love eternally. You are love, my precious child. My love light shines in every star. You are loved. You are loved. You are loved. You are guarded, precious child. For I am there to light your way. In times of joy and times of tears, I share your moments every day. You are guarded, precious child, as you sing my voice within. You are loved, you are loved, you are loved. You are free, my precious child, as the wind that sweeps the place, like the eagle soaring high, like the clouds that bring the rain. You are free, my precious child, to live your every hope and dream. For you are loved, you are loved, you are loved.
Good morning. My name is Bob White, and we're celebrating love today. And if you take a look at the Bible, love is described in many ways and in many verses. I just wondered this morning, and I checked, the word love appears in the Bible anywhere from 300 to 700 times, depending on which version you are reading. So it's obviously one of the strong points of that. Libby and Michael have put together some verses that they call Gems from the Bible, Messages of Love, and they asked me if I'd read them for you this morning. From 1 John 4:16. So we have come to know and to believe the love that God has for us. God is love, and whoever abides in love abides in God, and God abides in us. 1 John 4:12. No one has ever seen God. If we love one another, God abides in us, and God's love is perfected in us. 1 Corinthians 16:14. Everything should be done in love. 1 Corinthians 13:4-6. Love is patient and kind. Love does not envy or boast. It is not arrogant or rude. It does not insist on its way. It is not irritable or resentful. It does not rejoice in wrongdoing, but rejoices with the truth. Mark 12:31. The second commandment is this: you shall love your neighbor as yourself. 2 Timothy. For God gave us a spirit not of fear, but of power and love and self-control. 1 John chapter 4, verse 18. There is no fear in love, but perfect love casts out fear. For fear has to do with punishment, and whoever fears has not been perfected in love. May we continue to be blessed by these readings.
So as we travel to meditation today, I thought I'd encourage you, since it's that month of love, that time close to Valentine's Day. You know, I love Valentine's because even if it was a Hallmark gig, it's still so wonderful to have a day that you pick out that you just think about love. And especially, I think it's translated into a whole month. Don't you think of February as the love month? The love month. So what I'd like to do as we start your meditation today and as we go into our service is to talk about mudra. Mudra is a hand pose, or in yoga we call them hand asanas, but Native Americans had mudras. We do this one all the time, right? Okay, everything's going good. And if you turn your hands over, it's a mudra that's used by the Buddhists and the Hindus and the yogis, which is the connection of the divine to each of us individually. So we've always used hand signals and mudras. They are gestures. This one today is for your heart. And I'd like to teach it to you. And you may decide to use it and hold this mudra all during the meditation. Or if your hands tire a little bit, you may decide that you'll just place your hands on your lap with your left hand on top of your right, resting like this in what's called the meditation pose, the meditation mudra. So you can always come back to that. But let's learn this beautiful mudra for the heart. Not only is it for the healing of the heart, so it's actually first aid for the heart. So if you've ever had a heart event, this is something that you might like to sit and do in quiet. It's very good, sending energy to the meridian lines, the energy points in your body. But it's also good to nourish your digestive center, your digestive tract, and we have to digest life, right? And we have to do that right here, as well as here and here. So that's important. And last but not least, it nourishes your breath. It gives you an openness of breath. So while you're meditating, it helps open your breath so that you can really draw in more of that Christ consciousness, of that prana, the life force. So take your hands and take your index finger and put it right at the base of your thumb. And then take your middle finger and fourth finger and hook it to your thumb. Got that? The pinky finger stays out. Yeah, this is for the energy of your heart. Everybody got that? So the index finger comes to the base of your thumb. Yeah, the third and fourth finger come to your thumb. So you've got a circle. It's rather lovely. And then your pinkies are out like this. And then you just stretch your arms out long and put them right in front of your thighs or shin, just like this. Yeah, just like Susan's doing. Yeah. So see if you can be with that and with your breath, if you like. Just settle in as you take your meditation. If it gets tiresome, just slide your hands to your lap and enjoy this first aid, this loving kindness to your heart.
Thank you, Libby. Thank you, Bob. So as you sit in this quiet and stillness, as you allow yourself to relax, to let go, to allow your mind's attention to be nowhere else but right here, right now. This is a gift you give to yourself. And this is a gift you can give anytime throughout the week, throughout the day. And as Bob said, the focus today is love. And yet, as we know, love is every day. Love is. Love continues to be just as the sun continues to shine. Whether or not we see it, it is there. Whether or not we can see it, whether or not we believe it, love is there. On the level of mind in the human plane, love for oneness, a sense of identification, is the power that draws people together in families and friends. Also in mind, at a higher level of development, it can be the inner light that enables us to see good in all persons, to identify with the higher nature of others, even when they fail to express it themselves. As our co-founder Charles Fillmore said, love is an inner quality that sees good everywhere and in everybody. It insists that all is good, and by refusing to see anything but good, it causes that quality finally to appear uppermost in itself and in all things. A Native American from the Rosebud, Lakota, by the name of John Lame Deer, said that love is something you can leave behind you. Even when you die, it's that powerful. So I'd like to invite you, as you're in this time of meditation, to bring to mind people in your life who made a positive difference on your path. Teachers, mentors, guides, friends, family, even strangers. Bring them all into mind. See them, whether they're living in this dimension or another. They are surrounded by white light, your love. The beauty of meditation is there is no time. We can simply recall past events and see these individuals who contributed in such a positive, loving way. And they made all the difference. And now I invite you to picture people of all ages. Again, they could be family, friends, even strangers that you know you made a difference in their lives. A word, a gesture, whatever it was, you reached out because you cared and because the love in your heart led you to be a person who made a difference in their life. See them now and see you in this magnificent picture of all these people. In the world, we are all connected to all living entities. In fact, we might go so far as to say we are connected to everything that exists simply by that life force that is in the air, that is in the soil, that is in the water. And now we also know we are all connected to one another and to the source through love itself. And so it is. Amen.
May you rejoice in the new life within you as you release the old and worn. Open your heart with praise and thanksgiving. May you see God. May you awake to a world of beauty, lifted up from times of tears, aware of the grace that tenderly carries you. May you see God. May you feel God. Was there a time in your life you might have glimpsed something unseen? Now you can believe it's real. May you look back on a life sweet with memories, understanding all was right, and in the whisper of your last breath, may you see God.
Thank you so much, Carol and Roland. I feel like basking in that for a while. Well, it is all about love, right? I mean, love is what motivates us, it's what sustains us, it's what feeds us. And because God is love, love is everywhere present. I like thinking about that. And really, all of love is extraordinary. Nothing more special than the love of our family and those with whom we are intimate, our mates, our sweethearts, our spouse, our lovers. But today, I'd like to celebrate extraordinary, extraordinary love. Sometimes we, notice or give wind to it. We pick up on it. And what I mean by that, I'm going to talk about the love that happens in our everyday experience, the simple things every day that go on. And out of that often flourishes some of the most powerful, extraordinary, ordinary love. So sometimes we notice it, sometimes it goes unnoticed in the moment, or unintentionally we take it for granted. But no doubt, I know for sure, that we've all experienced some extraordinary, extraordinary love. And I'd like to share a couple stories of extraordinary love today. And then I'm hoping that after I do that, that one of you, maybe one or two of you, will share a little extraordinary love. Maybe it'll come to your mind. But first, before we do that, we have to ask the question, what is love? Bob was saying, wow, the word love is in the Bible so many times. And we live from the place of love, really. And we thrive from love. And we suffer if we don't have love. It reminds me, a number of years ago, I was in Massachusetts. And I'm a yoga therapist, and I was there to help run midterm exams. And one of my students, her name was Manuela, and although it sounds Spanish, she was from Germany, and she said, you Americans, you love everything. You love your cookies, you love your car, you love this, you love that. And she said, we use the word a little more sparingly. And, for more special occasions. And I said to myself, yeah, that's true. There are many, many layers to love, however, right? And if you were to look up love in the Oxford Dictionary, it would just simply say an intense feeling, an intense affection, a great interest or pleasure in something. But what I want to talk about in these stories today is a deep spiritual love that we experience every day that sometimes we're not even aware of. Everyday love experiences that are well rooted in a spiritual connection that actually helps us find meaning and purpose in our lives. Spiritual loves, well, some are meant to walk with us all through our life, and spiritual loves, some of them are there to give us a lesson. So the first story that I would like to share with you today has always, well, in the last few years, became very, very meaningful to me. And I think when this first occurred, I was completely unaware. I was 18 years old, and we were living at the time in Oberlin, Ohio. And Oberlin, by the way, Myrtle Fillmore, the co-founder of Unity, with her husband, Charles Myrtle, went to Oberlin College, which is there. Has anybody ever been to Oberlin? It's a wonderful town. So I was in high school there. We'd only been there about a year, and it was time to graduate, and my mom was suddenly left to fend on her own with 4 girls. And we had no money. It was myself, a sister 3 years younger, and twin sisters 13 years younger, 4.5-year-olds. So I think I just pretended that I would get to go to college. That was always been the dream, but it really wasn't in the story. It wasn't possible with the finances the way they were at that time. And Oberlin's a wonderful, fascinating town because it's the home of the Underground Railroad. And when we moved there, we moved from the deep south. And when we moved to Oberlin, it was refreshing, and my parents were delighted that 45% of the businesses in Oberlin, Ohio, were owned by Black Americans. Isn't that great? African Americans. And so it was a wonderful integrated town. And I went to my counselor about the possibility of what about a scholarship. And I was a good student, but I was more into social life. And so, I couldn't get the high academic scholarship. And he said, if you were African American, I could get you a scholarship. Now that's a turn of the tides, right? And I actually kind of smiled, and I thought, well, that's okay, but I just kept pretending I somehow was going to get to go to college. And then one day, I got a call to come down to the office, and I was to meet a woman by the name of Christine Purvis. Now, Christine Purvis was the choir teacher at Oberlin High School. I'd never gone to choir. I had seen her, but I did not know her. Her husband was working at the college there at Oberlin College in the administration. And so she came in and she introduced herself. And she said, so Libby, my husband is going to leave Oberlin College and take a position at a small school in Ohio called Bluffton College, which is now a university. And she said, if you, and I know of your best friend Paula, whose father was in grave health, if you and Paula come with us, we will get you, I'm going to be like Yvette now, we will give you a 4-year working scholarship to college. So, okay, that was an ordinary experience enough in itself. And then I found out that the school was Mennonite. Well, I really didn't know anything about Mennonites, coming from the South and being an 18-year-old. And the interesting thing about it, well, I'll get to that in a minute. When I got ready to leave, of course, I said yes. So Paul and I were going to be roommates and go to this college. And the day I left for college, my sister, that's 3 years younger than myself, was going to her first day of high school. And my twin sisters that were 4.5, well, actually, they were about to turn 5. They were going to their first day of kindergarten. And I got to take them to kindergarten. That's kind of exciting. Yeah, so they were going to kindergarten. She was going to high school. I was going to college. So after I dropped them off, because my mom had to work, I drove to college. So when I got there, it was very restrictive. I wasn't used to having so many rules and regulations, but wonderful people, big focus on international students. And the best thing that was the greatest surprise, so this is what I think happens in extraordinary, ordinary love experiences, is that there are surprises along the way. Well, I was surprised, first of all, that she came and said, I think you can go to college. And secondly, when I got there, I found out that they completely do not believe in war. Totally nonviolent living. And so I got to go to many congregational lectures about nonviolent living, which was perfect for where I ended up eventually. You never know where you're going on your journey, right? So 4 years of college there, one of the best educations for teaching that I could ever imagine or dream of. And so I got out in life and became a teacher. And all these years was very appreciative. And then about 5 years ago, I got a call and somebody connected me back to Christine Purvis. They found her and said she was in an assisted living home in Bluffton, Ohio, where Bluffton College is. And we texted and we talked on the phone. And the beauty of it is I got to really say thank you. Because once I got to college, I was in college. I didn't think about it. She was there doing choir, but I wasn't in choir. And so at 95 years old, and I think we have a picture of her up here on the screen, we got to sort of be pen pals for a short period of time. But what was really, here's another layer of surprise. She said, do you know, in that town of Oberlin, Ohio, there was a couple who wanted to remain anonymous that sent a great deal of money to your college career. Isn't that cool? Isn't that cool? Yeah, I had no idea. But there was some couple that I have no idea who they were. We hadn't lived there but a year. That apparently donated a great deal of money to the college on my behalf. Whoa, right? Isn't that extraordinary? That's extraordinary. And I'm sure you have these experiences too, but I didn't know how extraordinary that seemingly wonderful experience was in the moment. All right, so let's switch gears. You know, these extraordinary experiences come in all shapes and sizes. I mean, it might be as simple as a principal at the school where I used to work with severely emotionally impaired kids. He was awesome. He was Mr. Yellow legal pad man. He was always carrying his legal pad around with him. And I loved Chuck. He dressed like a gangster, had earrings and great tattoos, and he'd been a 4-time felon. He was the principal of a school for severely emotionally disturbed kids. He rocked. And they listened to him. But you know what's cool about him? He made everybody have an extraordinary experience. And if you've been a teacher, teachers often sometimes feel like they don't get very many pats on the back It's a hard job. And he would take his legal pad and write you a note and rip it off and put it in your box. And you could come and you'd go, I noticed today how hard you worked to prepare that program and what a good job you did working with those kids. I thought that was extraordinary. In fact, a couple weeks ago, I was going through papers and I came across one of those little sheets of papers that I have had from him. And he gave them to many people. But that's one of those things where we can create, of course, an extraordinary experience for somebody else. All right, one more quick story that I want to share with you that I know so many people here at Unity love animals, and many of you volunteer to help animals in the area. And this is an animal story that I think is amazing. We had a beautiful dog named Jiva, and she was a big girl. She was part Rottweiler, Shepherd, and Lab. Gorgeous and so much fun. And we live on a country road, so we always had to go visit the farms in the morning and before we went to bed. I mean, you weren't going to bed if you didn't go up the road. And so this one neighbor who has a gentleman's farm had 21 kittens, feral kittens, of course. And Jiva loved to go in there. And these kittens were, we like cats. Don't get mad at anybody. I love cats, but we're dog people. But these kittens were adorable. And there was one that stood out in the crowd. I mean, he was extraordinary. And so we thought, oh boy, I wouldn't mind taking him home. And of course, our dog loved that cat. Well, our neighbor Barb said, I've got to find all these animals' homes, which she did. And we were hoping that this particular little friend really got a good home. Well, it so happens, as the story layers, that our neighbor next door, 1/8 of a mile away, Fritz, he adopted this cat and one other one. We thought, oh, good, he's got a good home. So we didn't see that cat for 2 years, but we knew he had a good home. And Fritz is quite good with wood and built a beautiful cat climbing wall, and the cat could go in and out. Talk about cat life. Come in and out when he wanted, roam the neighborhood, happy, happy cat. So it was during the next 2 years that our dog was found to have an inoperable tumor on her spine. And you know how hard that is when your pet is in trouble, right? And all of a sudden, out of nowhere, this cat, whose name, by the way, is Noble, who you will now see on the screen, came across that field and came to our dog and stayed with her every night till she passed. Now that's a beautiful, extraordinary story in of itself. You know how animals always surprise us. But then the story gets better. That cat stayed with us every day. It would go home for dinner, though. It would go home to eat. Perfect pet. Didn't have to pay any, you know. And in fact, every now and then, once in a while, Fritz would say, well, don't forget to tell Noble the restaurant's open. Because he knew he loved that cat, too. A very unusual cat. All the neighbors liked this cat. But that cat stayed at our house for the next 11 years. Every night we'd come in, he's sitting on the post. I'd come up and sit next to him. I had a lot of conversations with him. We'd lounge together and cuddle outside, outdoor cat. But we became very good friends, and Mike grew him a few catnip plants. Quite a character. I made a set of cards about him because he's so adorable. Well, anyway, he became ill about a year ago in October, and he came to our house to die. And I didn't know it was going to be so hard. It was gut-wrenching, of course, and we lose our pets. But what was really cool, another layer of extraordinary love, Fritz sends us the message through our neighbor who owned the cats to begin with. Tell Libby and Mike to bury Noble on their property. Well, the story gets better. I mean, it was his cat, right? So we did. We buried Noble on our property, but in the next picture you'll see, here's our neighbor Fritz, and he's Catholic. So Fritz is over here with making himself a cross, a wooden cross. And then the three of us wrote our messages to Noble, and Michael made the headstone there, the cat on the ground. And we had a Unity, a piece from our Unity magazine, or not Unity magazine, but Daily Word. You know how they have those wonderful writings about animals? And we had our own funeral right there, the three of us. And the one thing we forgot to do is invite the woman who owned the kittens to begin with, and she was mad because she didn't get invited to the funeral. No, but it's just a beautiful, beautiful story. What an amazing story, right, with an animal. We know how animals have that that sense. So I'm hoping that maybe one of you might, as you hear these stories and see the layering of these rather ordinary, everyday things that go on, but how they layer and get deeper and deeper and really deepen our life and bring us to even other perceptions. So I'm wondering, I know this is rather risk-taking, to see if there's anybody that would like to share. It could be a really short story. Anybody? Oh, come on. Okay.
As many of you know, I just got back from Haiti. I really had the opportunity to go down there. I've been working there since 2010, since right after the earthquake. And we have been building a women's health and birthing center, a midwifery center, for a long time, because Haiti's got the highest infant and maternal mortality rate in the whole Western Hemisphere. So we've developed this place where they could come and be safe, and it's clean, and they have their babies, and we have nurse midwives who've been trained in Haiti, Haitian midwives. And so the grand opening, I got down there on a Tuesday, the grand opening was on a Wednesday, and the night before the grand opening, two of the midwives and the in-country director, Hernandez, spent the night at the facility, because we have apartments upstairs, because we'll have midwives there 24/7, so they have their own apartments. And about 10 o'clock that Tuesday, they wanted to get up the next day to get everything ready for the big grand opening. And so about 10 o'clock, a woman shows up there, and this is 2 days before we were planning on really opening up for services. And she was in labor. So they called me at the hotel where I was staying, and the director that I was staying with, and said, "Can we deliver this baby?" And we're like, "Yes, deliver the baby." You know? And we had our first baby the day before the grand opening. And it was just the most incredible thing. And those midwives, they got in there and they delivered this baby, and everything was safe and wonderful. And I was at this beautiful ceremony that we had, and we had a wonderful meal that many of the women made for us, you know, and to celebrate. And I got a chance to hold that baby. And the mom was there. She stuck around because she was invited to this event.
Aww.
And I got to sit under a mango tree and hold that baby. And I'm telling you, I looked in the eyes of that infant, that newborn. I could see that love in the eyes of that baby. I will never forget that moment. It will always be engraved in my heart and in my mind. And I love having the opportunity to share it with all of you.
Does anybody watch Call the Midwife? Oh. You got to watch it now after you hear that story. Anybody else like to share a story? That was wonderful. So many of you here make extraordinary experiences for other people. So many of you volunteer in the community and so forth. But anything, just some little personal thing that inspired you or surprised you? I like the surprise spiritual experiences. No? Well, that was the idea, not to give you notice. It's more fun, you know, when it's not a notice. All right, so I'll close then. If you come up with one, I'm open. We're ready. We've got time. But one thing that the next place I was going is that, yeah, these experiences happen to us. And I'll share with you a couple neat experiences that are very short. One is a woman came to our studio. So sometimes I feel that Spirit calls you to provide that extraordinary experience. And she came in the door and she looked totally sad, frightened and flustered. And she said, I recognized her because she used to take classes with us, not that far long ago. And she said, do you have a place where I can just go be quiet? I just need a quiet space. Is there by any chance one of your rooms open? And as Great Spirit would have it planned, our smallest room, which we affectionately call the womb room, we have 3 rooms, and our womb room is a really sweet little room. I said, follow me. So I took her into that room and set her up on some pillows and dimmed the light, closed the door, and we all went on with life in the studio. And she came out after a while and she had a big smile on her face and said, thank you so much. I'm going through something really terrible in my life and I just needed a place to come. And I thought, well, first of all, I felt honored that she would think that we would help her out, that she would come. I felt honored with that. But you just never know what somebody's going through, right? So there was a time where Spirit comes in and says, you need to create an extraordinary love experience for this person or this group or these people. So this is one that didn't start out as extraordinary, but whenever we go downtown, I always like to put extra money in the parking meter. And, I've always done that. And Michael goes, oh. Like, why are you doing that? That's how it first started out, like, oh, no. And I said, well, it just seems like every time we go downtown and we're going someplace, it seems like there's always a parking spot. It just is magical. It just like it opens up and there it is. And so I thought, well, and sometimes there's, 5 or 10 minutes in there. So I thought, why not leave some money so that somebody will be surprised when they come, oh my gosh, I've got 20 minutes on this meter, how exciting. Because in Traverse City, there's always somebody pulling in when you pull out, right? So at first, that was just a fun thing. But now it sort of seems like an afterglow of having extraordinary love experiences. It's sort of like, I want to do that. I want that experience. And Michael does too now. I've trained him. But seriously, those are things, think of the surprise. Somebody pulls in, oh my gosh, I've got 20 minutes on this. This is great. All right, you sure you don't have somebody doesn't have a little story before we close? Oh, good, Bob. They happen all the time, right? And I know you have them, you just don't want to talk.
I've told this story before, but it fits perfectly into what Libby's talking about today. As many of us, I had a very difficult relationship with my father. And over the years, he was an alcoholic and it affected his health, his life, our relationship and everything. And we were not very close as he was getting older and sicker. He eventually got cancer, ravaged his body, and went up to the hospital, and he had been strapped to his arm, strapped to the bedpost so he wouldn't pull out the IVs and so forth. And he was incoherent and thrashing around, and it was very, very difficult to see. And I thought that would be the last time that I saw him. But the next day, I felt this draw that I had to go up and see him one more time. And when I got there, he was actually still, wasn't thrashing, and just looked peaceful. And as I entered the room, I went to stand by his side. He opened his eyes and looked at me. He took one of my hands, kissed it, and held it to his cheek, and smiled. That is the last memory I have of my father.
That's a better one.
And I know that wasn't just him. He was gone, but God was there with him and wanted to let me know how much my father loved me. That was a very, very special moment in my life, and it's something I will never, ever forget. And it's probably the greatest show of love I think I have ever received.
Wow, thank you. All right, last call.
I'll do it.
Okay.
I had shared with you guys that my mama died in April, and she had a massive stroke and was gone really fast, but they had just put her on life support. She was just barely breathing and had time for my sister to get there. We both live here. My sister lived with Mama, but she was in Manistee dog sitting for her daughter. My daughter and her daughter and their families were all in Florida. I was the only one here. But Sis got here at Munson. They had taken her off life support, and she just died right away. And so we were just walking out of the hospital, and we were just kind of stunned. And my parents had just the love story, together since Mama was 15, he was 17. And he had been gone for 12 years, and she had just missed him so much. So we're walking out of the hospital, and we're just like, oh, my God, she was just gone that fast. And all of a sudden, these two ducks just about hit us in the head. They just flew over our heads so close, and we were like, whoa, did you see that? And then these ducks were just squawking, and they came around, and they just did that again, and they did this 3 times and squawking, and they were right together. and just like so happy. And my sister just said, "Oh my God, it's Dad. He's saying, I got her." And then they just went the third time, and then they just went off in the horizon, squawking the whole way. And it just raised our hearts so much. I said, I had all the stuff with my husband that helped with his death. I said, I didn't even think about having something with Mama and Dad that would make us feel so good. And we've just carried that with us ever since.
Thanks. That was awesome. So I would say that those are extraordinary experiences, but I would say they're extraordinary experiences. Wouldn't you? Yeah, I would say so. And thank you, all of you, so much for sharing your stories. And I hope that when the service is over that you'll share stories among yourselves, more of these little extraordinary stories, and do it frequently, because today we live in a time of way too much information, and we are bombarded by information that's hard to digest, that sometimes doesn't make sense, that feels cruel and wrong and painful. And so I think one of our remedies for that is to every day keep coming back and saying, yes, this is going on. I bless, I call in spirit, and I let go, and I look at what's going well in my own life, and what are the miracles that are happening every day in my own life all day long, and keep bringing those up, because in the great tradition of Ayurvedic medicine, we always say opposites heal. So if you're hot, you make yourself cool, right? And if you're getting information that upsets you or disturbs you, then you want to think thoughts and bring in something that brings you back joy, just like what you did there with the ducks flying over. That was your remedy. That was your medicine. So what matters really well is how well we participate really in our own life and in those extraordinary experiences every day. That means we're living life skillfully when we look for the joy. We're doing the best we can. And so no matter what life brings, we can expand our awareness, and we can acknowledge and notice the extraordinary. And as I leave this today, what I'd like to do is have you take a look at what's on the screen, and it's some deep wisdom from the bathroom. And that comes from the bathroom in our studio. And when a person uses that bathroom, they have to read that. It's just in a place they have no other choice. So I'd like you to, but it's so great. And it goes, and I don't know if you can see it clearly enough, but it goes, in case you forgot to remind yourself this morning that your smile lights up the room. Your mind is insanely cool, and you are more than enough. And you are doing an amazing job at life. Thank you. Bless you.
Well, thank each and every one of you for contributing simply by being here. And they don't have to read that unless they close the door.
That's true.
So this is our time to consider the prosperity that we all have in our health, in our relationships, and in our financial well-being. The truth of prosperity is that there's always enough. There's always enough to meet every need. And I think it goes without saying that when someone is down and out, someone else will step in. And certainly these stories today have proven that. The truth of peace is that love is greater and more enduring than hate. And this is the importance of giving thanks in all things rather than for all things. So there is a prosperity blessing that we can affirm together on the screen. Together,
Divine
love
through
me,
me, blesses and multiplies all that I have, all that I give, and all that I receive. Thank you,
Father God. Thank you. And so it is.
We've got videos and tapes and radios, TV shows and conferences, retreats and seminars. It's like books and magazines to read on everything from A to Z, and a web to surf from anywhere we are. Well, I hope with all this information buzzing through our brains that we will not let our hearts forget the most important thing. It's love, 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 love. It's all about love, 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 love. Everything else comes after this, nothing any higher on the list than love. It's all about love. Now they're fighting in the Middle East and they're fighting down on 7th Street. There are fights in my own house on given days. It's like something's lurking deep inside and can't seem to be satisfied. The life was not meant to be lived this way. 'Cause it's true for every man and woman, every boy and girl, that our only hope for living here together in this world is love, 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 love. It's all about love, 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 love. Everything else comes down to this, nothing any higher on the list than love. This is the reason we were made, to know the truth of our Creator and to give the love that's been given us away. Yeah, the Maker and Creator and the soul of everything we know is love, love, love. He says love, love, love. Love, love, love. 'Cause after all, it's all about love. God says love, 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 love. It's all about love, 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 love. Everything else comes down to this, nothing any higher on the list than love. One more time. After all, it's all about love. It's all about love, 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 love. Everything else comes down to this, nothing any higher on the list than love. After all, it's all about love.
Let's stand and spread out into that magic circle of life. We are so blessed to have such a wonderful group of people, caring, loving, talented, such as these musicians and singers, and volunteers who help make this service what it is. The fellow in the sound room, AJ, thank you so much for being here. And thanks to all those who have set up our refreshments at the other end of the building for fellowship after we depart here. And if you have a special prayer need, we do have prayer chaplains. One will be up here, as you know, and another in the hall. And I think I've covered most everything, but I may have left something out. So I'll hand the mic over to Libby, who doesn't need a mic.
Let's take a moment to bring to mind somebody special that today you would like to send an extraordinary, extraordinary love story. one that can happen for them this day, someone who needs love, support, guidance, or healing, or whatever their need is. And if you'd like to speak their names into the circle, please whisper them now. You might like to just keep them in your heart. And we know that that energy is there from the stories that we've heard, that we simply need to take our attention there, and there is love. We need to take our attention to that place of calm, and there is peace. And might we move on now to our closing prayer. Envision that flower that you've been given, and remember that we are so much like the flowers. We are well rooted in the earth. We are well rooted in the soil of the Christ consciousness and eager to grow up into the light of transformation. And as we flowers, as we blow in the breezes of life, we share our beauty and our colors in so many extraordinary ways. May we hold dear our connections to one another. And so it is this day in love. Amen. And let's speak together our prayer of protection. The light of God surrounds us. The love of God enfolds us. The power of God protects us. And the presence of God watches over us. And wherever we are, God is, and all is well.